Welcome to another episode of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here at the News Forum, where all voices matter. In this episode, Magnolia Perron joins us as a representative of the National Aboriginal Capital Corporation Association. Specifically, she can tell us about two initiatives, the Indigenous Women's Entrepreneurship Program and the Youth Initiative. Welcome to Boom and Bust.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you for sure. Maybe just give us a bit of, and our audience, a bit of an explanation of the kinds and the purposes of the programs that you oversee at NACCA.
Sure, thanks for the question. My role at NACCA, I'm Director of Partnerships and Strategy. But over the last 5 years that I've been working with the National Aboriginal Capital Corporations Association, I've been able to support the organization in developing initiatives that target Indigenous women and youth entrepreneurs. As a network, we support First Nations, Métis, and Inuit businesses across the country through our Indigenous financial institutions who provide loans and business advisory services to businesses. A few years ago, when we were developing out our last strategic plan from 2017 to 2022, and we were looking at the data of all the businesses we supported as a network, we saw that the number of businesses that were owned 100% by Indigenous women entrepreneurs, as well as entrepreneurs under the age of 35, was quite low, and there was an inequity that we wanted to address. So,
Interesting.
over the last 5 years, we've been building an initiative to support both of these demographics.
Right. And we'll get into some of the details of that. But your association is kind of an umbrella group for all of these other capital associations throughout the country. Is that right?
That's correct. NACCA represents over 50 Indigenous financial institutions, coast to coast to coast, who support First Nations, Métis, and Inuit businesses.
Great. Okay. I just want to make sure our audience knew the kind of the corporate structure a little bit there. So let's first talk about Indigenous women entrepreneurs. So tell us a little bit about the challenges that Indigenous women entrepreneurs face and how those challenges can be overcome.
For sure. We know the first barrier that Indigenous women entrepreneurs face is access to capital. And Indigenous entrepreneurs more broadly face barriers to accessing financing for their business, particularly if their businesses are structured on reserve. They can't use their home or property as collateral, for example. They may not have the credit history or credit score. And other barriers like that. But for Indigenous women entrepreneurs, particularly when it comes to access to capital, we know that they often don't have the equity to invest in their business. And we also know that many of them are starting smaller micro businesses that may be part time or home based and often disqualify them from the types of capital that are out there. And so, one of the things that NACCA worked on a few years ago to support this particular demographic was the establishment and capitalization of a microloan fund. So, we could really support these women with smaller businesses to access capital, to start and grow their businesses, and really be able to contribute to their family income and household income.
And those microloans, there obviously is a vetting process to get those, but at the same time, you're kind of collaborating and working with the entrepreneur. Is that how it works?
Correct. So when we were building out our program for Indigenous women entrepreneurs, we recognized that both financial and non-financial supports were critical to supporting these women. So in addition to the microloans that we offer, which are up to $20,000, we also provided our network with resources so they could have a dedicated business support officer to work with women in their region, to do the outreach, support with, developing the business idea, um, writing a business plan, figuring out the cash flow, and ultimately applying for financing through the IFI, whether it was indeed a microloan or perhaps they're looking for a larger amount of funding depending on their project.
So, and what's the success rate?
It's been very successful over the last 3 years that we've established the microloan fund. We've supported over 400 microloans valued at over $9 million. So we're quite happy with those numbers and starting to see great return in terms of repayments and impact on communities.
And we'll unpack that a little bit. Magnolia, we're going to take a brief break for our ads and commercials, but we'll get right back to you after these messages.